One of the most basic and important parts of setting your suspension is setting the spring tension, or sag as it is called. We're going to take you through the steps to set your sag and do it one step at a time so that you'll know exactly how to do it. You'll need a few simple tools to perform the sag setting adjustments. It's a 17mm wrench, and that you'll use to set the front fork spring tension. Most bikes are 17mm. Hammer, the perfect suspension adjustment tool, is used in conjunction with this drift to unlock the locking nut that's on most rear shocks. We'll show you that too. Screwdriver we'll use to take the rebound out of the front and rear suspension so that you get a really clean sag setting. And this is a spanner that you'll use on the rear shock to adjust the spring tension. And here is probably the most important tool, a pull measure, so that you can get the difference between the fully extended length of your rear shock and front forks, and then what it is when you're sitting on the bike. Let's do the adjustment. Okay, now we're ready to get started, and we'll take the front fork fully extended measurement first. Now you'll need a friend to do this at home. You can just do it simply by rising the bike over on the side stand if your side stand is strong enough, and most of them are. Jason, come on over. Great. I'll tilt it over on that side stand and I'll get the front fork measurement. We've got the fairing off of this one so that you can see how it's done. We've got 115mm on this motorcycle, fully extended on the front. Is how much sag do you really want for your motorcycle? Well, a lot of it's personal preference. Some of it has to do with what you're going to do with the motorcycle, if you're going to race it or ride it on the street. The accepted band of sag is somewhere between 25 and 45mm. Now that's a big difference, but it certainly, again, will depend on what kind of riding you're going to be doing. Some riders like to do this adjustment with the rebound damping taken out of the front forks. That's so the rebound damping doesn't hold the front down when you're bouncing up and down to find out what the exact measurement is for your weight. Here's the rebound adjuster. In order to take the rebound adjustment out, you have to turn the screw out, which will be counterclockwise in this case. Let's find out how many clicks it is in. Now you're going to have to know this, so count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that's 11 clicks. Now the best thing to do is to write this down so that you can get it right when you put the bike back together. Now make sure you take the rebound damping out of both front forks. Now also, some forks are different. Check your owner's manual for the location of the rebound damper on your bike. Now Kobe's going to be the rider of this motorcycle. This is Kobe, and you already met Jason. Jason's going to be the holder, Kobe's going to be the rider. We've got Kobe's leathers and helmet here, and we're putting them on the tank just so we can make sure we get his actual riding weight exactly what we want it. Okay, Kobe, jumped on. Great, okay. Now, what you want to do is have the rider just finger the front brake and bounce up and down on the motorcycle so that the bike will actually get to the level it would be if you were riding it. Okay. All right, I got 75mm. So from 115, how's your math? That's right, that's 40mm. Okay, do you like it 40mm?
That's a little soft for me.
A little soft for you? Okay, so we're going to take it down. What are we going to shoot for on this one?
30, 32.
Now we have the target. We've got 40mm of sag in the front, and we want to go to 30 to 32. So we have to make an adjustment. And that's done with the front fork preload. Now here's the adjuster, and it's usually a 17mm wrench. We've got this T-handle, and that's usually also the easiest to use. We're going to be turning the preload, or sometimes called the ride height adjuster, down, in. That'll be clockwise, to put more tension on the front spring so we can take some of that sag out of it. Let's try that. Kobe, go ahead and bounce up and down on the bike again. All right. Okay, we've still got a little bit too much, about 10 millimeters too much, so we're going to have to repeat that procedure again. Back up to the forks, turn a little bit more preload in until you get exactly what you want. We turned the front preload in enough to get Kobe his 30 to 32 millimeters. Now let's take a look at what we're going to have to do to get the back sag set. Okay, the next measurement we're going to take is the rear of the bike at full extension of the shock. You'll need your handy tape measure again, of course, and find yourself a place up here on the seat of the fairing, and you're going to be using your measuring device, whatever, it's a rule or a pull tape like this. You want to get it going straight up and down. Next thing you need to do is get the bike up over on the side stand. So Jason's going to do it just like we did with the front forks to get that rear shock fully extended. Okay, so we got the weight off the rear, and we're showing 440 millimeters from the point I have on the seat to the point I have on the axle. We're going to use the same method on the rear shock as we did on the front forks by taking all the rebound damping out so we get a really accurate degree of bounce and spring sag when the rider gets back on. Okay? Usually the rebounded damper is on the bottom of the shock. Sometimes it's a knob, sometimes it's a screw. This one happens to be a screw. I'm going to count the clicks. Okay, that was 10 clicks. Make sure you write it down so you can put the rebound back in after you're finished with the sag adjustment. Now we're ready to take the rear measurement with the rider on board. Kobe's on, Jason's holding the bike. That's how we do it. And I'm going to go back to exactly the same points I took the first measurement and see what we've got here. Okay, we've got 400 millimeters. And we started off with 440 millimeters. Kobe, what do you like the rear?
That's a little too loose.
A little too loose?
That's 35.
Okay, so we need to bring it down about 5 millimeters?
Right.
Okay, so we're going to go to the spring, adjust the spring, put a little bit more tension in it, and get him his 35 millimeters. First thing you have to do to put more preload on the rear spring is usually take your drift and your hammer and loosen the lock ring on top. There are 2 rings on most shocks. Okay, I've loosened it up for the spanner. I'm going to tighten the spring down, and that usually means that you're going to have to rotate it clockwise. The best thing to do on this is to mark it with a felt tip pen so you know exactly how much you've turned it. I've got it turned down about 1 turn now. Okay, we've put some tension on the preload in the rear shock. Let's take that measurement over again. Kobe, why don't you give it a bounce just to make sure we're at the right place. All right. Put your tape back in exactly the same place as you had it before and retake that measurement. All right. That's perfect. We got 405 millimeters from 440 millimeters, and that's where Kobe wanted it at 35 millimeters. We got it. We lucked out. Okay, we're ready to wrap this sag adjustment up. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention, things that you really make sure you don't forget to do them. One would be to lock the lock ring down in your rear shock so that it doesn't come loose. The second one is you've got notes on your rebound damping for both your forks and your shock. So take your screwdriver and put those back in exactly where you had them before. Then you'll really be able to tell if your sag adjustment helped or not. I'd also suggest that you take your measurements and write those down on your pad. So the next time, if you need to change your sag again, you'll know what your baseline was and you'll know where to go with it. So as you can see, the sag adjustment is very simple, very foundation, very basic part of your suspension setup. Once you get it right, your bike is going to work great. Have a good time with it.